Let me see. This is, I don't know if you guys can even see that. Let me see. Eesh. Is this one all the way over here down on the floor? But yeah, here we go. And this is a full band compressor. So I'm gonna turn it up to about 11 o'clock. So as you can hear, like I just turned the compressor way up on that to around 2 o'clock. And the compressor all the way up. So as you can hear, it compresses it a lot more, when it's all the way up. But typically around 11 o'clock, that's compressor is going to be fine. If you want to have an all analog signal path on in the amp head in the amp preamp at the same time, I would go with something like that, either WTDI, which you have to find used, but there is a lot of those used lying around. So that plus, like I said, then you got the SGT. You can run the 160 compressor into that. We're going to switch on the TC Electronic Spectracomp after the SGT. And the 1176 style limiter. So as you can see, it gives you plenty of options, with your sound. Just the compressor, like you probably didn't even realize how much the compressor affected your sound. even the tone of it, like where you're placing it and you're placing it before or after things. So definitely compression is an absolute essential tool for an electric bassist. Like I said, you can just use that and compression, use your bass sound. If you're, your bass sound and compression, and it's gonna change. It's gonna change everything for you in terms of, um, I would say even on a gig, it's gonna allow you to cut so much through. But you gotta pay attention to what type of compression you're using and when you're using it. You know, like I said, that the 1176 one lets me retain a lot more bottom than the way I had the Spectra Comp set up. The Spectra Comp compresses, grabs that bottom and brings it down to match where everything sounds so even. Compared to the 1176 is a lot warmer, and the even the compressor on that Eden pedal is pretty warm. The one on the SGT is okay. I never really cared for it too much, but in the pinch, in terms of everything together on one unit, the SGT is an amazing tool. So, but the compressor on there is just okay. But my favorites out of these digital ones is going to be that limiter, the 1176 limiter and the 160 compressor. In terms of compression, that 160 compressor is really good. Like it's. Hold on, let me turn it. You would think that it was not as good because it's pretty much it's just like it's like a plug-in. Think of it like a plug-in. It's an emulation plug-in. So I would say, just pick what you want to use. If you like if these suffice for you, they're all throughout the Zoom lineup. The 160 and compressor and the limit 76. You know, but you also have other ones on there. You can check out those. I'm not a big fan of all those. Like I said, my favorites on the B6 is going to be the Black Op. Give you a little. It's one of my favorites, but my favorite is the 160 compressor and the 1176 limiter. So you take something like this, bring that compression down. You can get a nice scoop sound even without adding an EQ this way as well. So let's take up this preamp, and we'll go back into the system now. Without it, with it, you can run that into the IR. You can run it after the IR. You see, and it just depending on where you are compressing at, it just makes a huge difference. So if I was going to run it after the IR, I definitely would run one of my preamps before. Here's the Magellan and the IR by themselves. Right? With the compressor. So definitely a nice amount of compression on there. Like I said, you can run that before, and it sounds totally different. just so you can hear it in the room, in the cabinet, coming through an actual cabinet. So, yeah, it's a great compression is a great effect, guys. So make sure that you are getting into compressors. Don't leave them out. And like I said, they make a world of a difference in your sound and you cutting through. You're not gonna. It's gonna be compressed one way or another. You can control it or learn how to control it and get it to where you want it to be, or you can wait for somebody else to do it on the front of the house. But there's gonna be some compression in there somewhere and limiting. Especially because you're playing bass and there's a lot of, especially on these lower strings, there's a lot of booty in there. You gotta mitigate that. You know what I'm saying? Especially depending on the room you're in, it can be a compression can be the difference between everything going crazy or everything being nice and tight and sounding good. So you want to definitely make sure you're experimenting with compression and where you have it in your effects chain, where you how much of it you're using. And just be mindful that somebody else has to work with your tone at some point if you're running to the front of the house or if you're running in the studio. So if you over compress it, if you do too much, basically they don't have any wiggle room to do what they need to do to make the entire record sound glued together and sound good. And they might sidechain the bass with the kick drum, and that needs to be able to be done so that the kick and the bass sit right in the mix together. But if you did too much compressing, then they can't even get that right. So you know what I'm saying? Like it makes everybody have a headache if you overdo it. You'll be better underdoing it a little bit than overdoing it, just so the engineer has some more room. But and they don't, they won't hate you at the end of the day. So hopefully this has been an informational video for you guys about compression. If you like what you see, subscribe, like, and share. Make sure you hit the super thanks if this was really useful. If you finally understand how to use compression, great. Oh, and I would say this as a rule of thumb: attack, low attack, long release. You know what I'm saying? So you can use a shorter attack on your if you got these. With the threshold, you want to have the threshold high enough where it's not being hit all the time, every single time you're playing. But you want it to also have it at a ratio where when it does hit it, it doesn't overdo it. I think for most people, I think if you keep it around 2-1 or 4-1, most engineers are gonna be fine. You start getting into 8-1 and above, 8-1, and it becomes. They might say it's a little too compressed for them. So I would keep it around there and just keep your threshold high enough to where it's not hitting all the time, like every single note. So you keep your dynamics, and then from there you just enjoy playing and enjoy being cutting through the mix, and not having to dig into, because digging in changes your tone of the note that you might have wanted to sound like a certain way. You dig in too much, it's gonna sound a whole different way. So make sure you are compressing properly. But this has been another episode of All Bass Creations, Effects, Tutorials, Demos, Review. We got a lot more coming. I mean, when I say a lot more, I'm going to ramp it up so much, guys. It's going to be bananas. Like, you're going to be able to find everything you need for bass on this channel. Every single thing you ever needed for playing a bass guitar, you'll be able to find right here. So make sure you subscribe, like, and share. And I'm getting this Patreon together. Let me know when you guys are interested in my improvisation course. I'm in the middle of getting that together. So if you want to be able to improvise and build your own solos and techniques and things like that, I got something coming up for you guys. So it's been another episode of All Bass Creations, Effects, Tutorials, Demos, Review. I'll catch you guys next time. Find me on all social media at the Bass Negus, Negus. And all my music at allbasscreations.bandcamp. Peace.